So he veered in front of me, and I lost control of my van and just started rolling. Rolled 4 times. I landed upside down. So I'm like, I can't help me. I can't breathe. I couldn't breathe because my neck was broken and it was like cutting off my air passage. And I didn't even know. I didn't even feel any of it. I was just in shock.
Welcome to Rehabilitationships, a new podcast from Mary Free Bed Rehabilitation, bringing you real stories of recovery from real patients and real clinicians.
Welcome to the first episode of Rehabilitationships. I'm your host, Chris Mills from Mary Free Bed Rehabilitation. We are so excited to start sharing some of these amazing stories, and this first one is great. In this episode, you'll meet Bryce Burnette, and you'll hear his story on how he sustained a spinal cord injury during a rollover car accident. We're going to be joined by a physical therapist from Mary Free Bed, Laura Meengs, who helped Bryce on his journey of recovery. It's a wonderful story, and so let's jump into this first episode of Rehabilitationships.
Well, I was born and raised in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I had a really great upbringing. My parents were amazing. My brother's amazing. I'm very lucky to have this situation happen to me and be in the situation that I was in. They took really good care of me.
You know, music is a big part of your life. When did music start? When did that love for music start for you?
No, I was young. I was like 3. I don't know. I just remember watching somebody sing on the TV when I was like my earliest memory of wanting to sing, and I was just like, I want to do that. So.
And what do you do for work?
I'm a cricket farmer.
A cricket farm. Okay, yeah. So you hear about that sometimes, but you don't actually think that's a real thing.
Yeah, for sure. People are always asking me if I do this at home, and I'm like, no, I go to work.
So what's it like at the cricket farm? Tell us about what your role is and what you like about the job, those kinds of things.
Well, I like how close-knit we are. There's only like 15 of us that work there, and I'm really close with my boss and stuff. But my main job there is packing the crickets into boxes to be shipped through, FedEx and UPS and, distributed amongst our customers.
Wait, so you can actually ship crickets through FedEx or UPS?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, in little boxes.
So do they check the biohazard option when you're at the post office or something?
We just have to put a little sticker on it that says there's live crickets in it. And yeah.
You're going to have to give me one of those stickers.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
So what do people say when you tell them you work at a cricket farm?
They're always like, crickets, the insect? They never really believe that that's what I do. And I'm like, yep.
What do people use the crickets for?
Bait and food for like reptiles and stuff.
Have you ever accidentally brought one home?
Oh, all the time. All the time. Yeah. They're always in the car. They're always, wherever I showered.
Oh my gosh. Bryce, life really changed for you November 2019. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened on that day?
Well, I was driving down I-94. It was like really early in the morning. It was like 6 or 7 in the morning. I was going to visit a friend, and I just remember there was a lot of traffic because it was obviously like rush hour, everybody getting to work, and there was a red truck behind me, and I saw him swerving in and out of traffic and stuff. And by the time he had come up behind me, he swerved into the lane. I was in the left lane. He swerved to get around me in the right lane, and then he wanted to beat me before he got to the car right here in the right lane. And so he veered in front of me, and I lost control of my van, and I just remember driving towards the exit. Like there's like a little ditch between the exit and the highway, and I hit that and just started rolling. Rolled 4 times. I landed upside down, and my music was really loud. And I remember trying to turn it down because somebody was trying to talk to me. They were like, we're gonna get you out. We're gonna get you out. And so I'm like, I can't help me. I can't breathe. I couldn't breathe because my neck was broken, and it was like cutting off my air passage, and I didn't even know. I didn't even feel any of it. I was just in shock. And so I just went into shock after that. Don't remember much.
What was the first thing you remember after it? I mean,
Well, my first initial thought was my mom's going to be so mad at me. That was like literally the first thing I thought about. I was like, wow, I can't believe I just did this.
Do you remember when you woke up? Like you said, you kind of went into shock and you don't remember much of the rest of the accident. Do you remember like your first moments in the hospital afterwards?
Yeah, I remember right when I opened my eyes, she was like, "Do you remember what happened to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "What?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just lucky to be alive."
Do you remember when they told you about your injury and what was wrong? And do you remember the specifics about what they told you your injury was?
I just remember them telling me I was paralyzed. Like that was the only thing that stuck out to me. They said a whole bunch of C5s and 7s and all this other stuff, and I just remember them being like, you can't, you're paralyzed, and I was like, what? That's crazy. It didn't even feel like it. I don't know, it's hard to explain.
Yeah, that word just kind of hits you.
Yeah.
You hear about this long list of things, and then you hear that word.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you feel at that moment?
I didn't know what was wrong with me, so I didn't really focus on any of the pain. But then when I found out what was wrong with me, then everything became really painful.
Emotionally, how did you feel?
I don't remember. I think I just slept a lot. Like, I don't really remember. I remember being like, okay, I don't want to be, all these thoughts of not wanting to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, but not having a choice, you know what I mean? And so that just sent me into just a slumber, and I just slept it all away, really, at the beginning.
Did they operate on you then when you got to the emergency room, and then they did the surgery right away? Do you remember how many levels they fused or what they fixed?
I'm fused from my C5 to my C7. Yeah, my C5 to C7, and I have a plate holding up my neck in the front, and so I'm assuming they did this all initially right after the hospital. Or right when I got to the hospital. But they must have did it. I don't know how long the surgery was or anything, because I just remember waking up and stuff. So.
And your parents and your family were nearby this whole time?
The whole time, yeah.
Mom's sitting in the room with you?
Yeah, my mom, she stayed with me like a week or two. Or I don't know. She was there for a long time. But I just was, I was in and out of sleep. So I just remember being like, hi, and then falling back asleep. Yeah, right. Yeah.
When did you ever reach out to other family or friends? I mean, did you let work know? I mean, how does that kind of go when you're okay, I'm in
word
hospital?
of mouth, really. I don't know. My mom let my job know, and then it spread like wildfire. And then before you knew it, everybody knew.
So you said you were in the hospital for 4 days. When did you start hearing about rehabilitation, what that was going to mean, where it was going to be? Do you remember hearing about that?
I remember them telling me that I was going to rehab. They're like, you're going, to Grand Rapids for rehab. And I'm like, cool. I don't know.
And they packed you up and
right.
You
It sounds like I don't have a choice. So.
Have you ever heard of Mary Free Bed before this?
No, I haven't.
Do you remember the day when you first transferred or what
I
the
do.
first experience was like?
I remember because I rode an ambulance here on a stretcher. And I remember coming in and seeing all the bright colors and stuff and being like, where am I going?
Where am I going?
Yep. And then they brought me up to my room, and everybody was so chipper and happy, and I was not excited to be here at all.
You're stop being so happy.
Right. They're like, welcome. I don't know. Yeah.
Laura, this is where your part comes in. You actually worked with Bryce when he was here at Mary Free Bed doing inpatient rehabilitation. What was your first experience like with him? Do you remember how he was doing when he first came?
Yeah, I do. I remember he came in, I think, on a Friday, and then Tracy, my job share partner, did the initial evaluation with him on a Saturday. And then I first met him, I believe, on either that next Tuesday or Wednesday. So he was a couple days in. I just remember he was super nice guy, a little quiet. I think he was a little maybe unsure of what was all going on, but certainly seemed like he was, going to work hard, give it his best. At that point, he was still pretty, what we call dependent in the therapy world, meaning he needed a lot of help with all of his care. For me, his type of spinal cord injury is the exciting kind because it's what we call an incomplete injury. So it means that there's, in therapy world, kind of unlimited potential. And everybody's got lots of potential, but for him especially, it was like he's got a little bit of movement, so lots to do, lots to work on. and definitely kind of excites us as therapists with, seeing how far they can take it.
Can you explain a little bit of the difference between an incomplete and a complete spinal cord injury?
Sure. So complete spinal cord injury means that they don't have any sensation or movement, typically in the sacral or rectal area when the physician is the one that is here that does that exam. So for Bryce, he was incomplete, but it also meant he was an incomplete ASIA C, which meant that he had some movement below the level of his injury. Not a lot. He just had a few muscles that were, moving, but definitely something to work with. And definitely showed us that hopefully there was good potential for a lot of return. So he was a C5, so cervical level 5, which meant he had pretty good bicep strength, but anything below that was fairly weak. And then a few leg muscles that were working, but certainly not all of them. Some of them weren't moving at all when we first did the evaluation.
So something presses up against the spinal cord and puts pressure on it. It doesn't sever it or break it entirely.
Correct.
There's an injury there.
Yes.
But things are still connected.
Yes, there's still some messages that are getting through. I can't remember if yours was just really bruised, if there were actually bone fragments in your spinal cord. I'd have to look at the initial report. But regardless, there was an injury at that level, and then they did the fusion to kind of stabilize things, and then that allows us to start working 5 days after the accident.
That's Laura Meengs, one of our talented clinicians here at Mary Free Bed, who worked with Bryce Burnette on his recovery following a spinal cord injury. You're listening to Rehabilitationships, a new podcast from Mary Free Bed Rehabilitation. Let's hear more about the beginning of Bryce's rehabilitation. 5 days afterwards, you were getting to work. You hear about, physical therapy, rehabilitation, but what is a typical day for him like? I mean, he came from a hospital, he's not doing anything.
Right.
And now he's being put to work.
Yeah, I mean, for some of the patients, it's, we try to prep them when we first come in and say hi and we're all chipper, but it's a busy day. It can be pretty overwhelming those first couple days because typically they get up. If they don't have a shower the first day, they're probably going to get a shower their second day. They're probably going to get some sort of bowel program to start the morning off with, and then they've got breakfast and they've got 3 hours of therapy, meaning physical occupational and speech therapy, 3 hours during the day. And it's all new and it's all, pretty taxing, especially since he had such a significant, injury, and painful. That's the other thing that we have to really try to, manage in their first couple weeks for sure, is to kind of keep the pain under control. So, I mean, you can probably talk more about that, Bryce. Was it super overwhelming, especially when that Monday came and you saw that schedule?
Yeah, I had to I'm not a morning person, so I had to tell them I can't do anything before 9, especially with this injury. I am not.
I think we had you scheduled 8:30 to 9:30 every day.
And I was not trying to do it, but I don't know. Yeah, it was a lot. It was very overwhelming.
Yeah. How did you learn? How did you learn to deal with that? Did you just
do it?
Just did
it. Yeah, I don't know. Some days were harder than others. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember, did you take naps during the day?
Oh, yeah.
Or just go to bed really early?
Sleep. If I wasn't doing therapy, I was sleeping. I think I was really depressed at the beginning. And
Could be.
I think that was
maybe why you were quiet.
To the sleepiness and all that. So,
because it's a hard reality to hit at one point being told you're paralyzed and thinking, okay, this is final.
Yeah,
this is what my life is going to be. This is my new normal. To then realize, wait a second, there might be some potential here.
Yeah.
Did people give you hope and say, hey, we don't know what it's going to be like, but we're going to work you and hopefully get you to a point?
Mostly what I remember people saying is just don't be disappointed if you, are reaching for the stars and can't get there. And I was like, well, I just knew that I was going to recover from this. Something in my brain just told me, and I just went with it.
Laura, what was Bryce's actual, some more of the specifics for his function? What was he able to do when you first saw him, and were you given goals, or did the team come together and say, hey, we want to try to do this for him?
I don't remember his actual long-term goals that we set that very first Saturday, but the first time I saw him, he needed at least one person doing maximal assistance, rolling him in bed, meaning he did about 25% of the work and the therapist did about 75% of the work, just to roll him and put one of those slings under him to be able to use the lift to get him up to a power wheelchair, meaning he drove the chair with a joystick. And then he would be able to operate it with a joystick around the halls and things. So we were our first goal for that first week was really just to get him to tolerate being upright in the wheelchair and to drive the wheelchair around. And then I think that following week, we're like, okay, we should really try to start getting him more in an upright standing position. And then we got you on the tilt table where we put you on a lying down position, strapped you on, and then slowly raised the table up into an upright position with a motor. And I think you did pretty well. I think we had some hypotensive moments, meaning your blood pressure dropped a little bit because you weren't familiar with standing. So we just needed to get your body more acclimated to the upright position. But pretty soon after the tilt table, we kind of took off and did some standing off the edge of the mat up to a platform walker. And then from there, you just kind of rolled. I mean, we were up and we were walking pretty quickly
city
after
blocks.
that.
Yeah, it was
crazy.
Yeah,
we were doing, I mean, within probably, so you came on November 9, I bet by second week of December, maybe you were walking laps already with different kinds of walkers. His hands didn't grip the walker real well at first, so we had to use more of a platform walker. And at that point, working on more higher level balance things.
I'm curious. I want to go back to going from the lying to the sitting up. Why is that hard for people at first after an injury?
Initially, when you have such a traumatic injury, and anytime you have a spinal cord injury and then the trauma and being in the ICU flat on your back for like a week, your body just doesn't know how to pump the blood from your feet up to your head. And so you get symptoms of dizziness. So like if you try to get up from the chair, if you've been sitting for a long time and you stand up too quickly, you get a little dizzy. It's like that for anybody who's sustained a spinal cord injury or anybody who's been in the hospital for a decent amount of time. So you have to sort of take it gradually. And then his body eventually became accustomed to it. There are a few things that we can do, like put an abdominal binder on. I think we probably wrapped your legs to try to help keep the blood pumping through his whole body rather than just pooling down at his feet. Usually within a couple weeks, the more mobile you can be, the more quickly you start to come around with that.
How important is movement in recovery?
It's huge, and there's actually quite a bit of good research, especially in the like ambulation walking research, just like volume of steps and being able to not just be like perfect in all of your steps, but just getting a lot of repetition, a lot of reps, a lot of steps, a lot of walking. And so that's really what we concentrated on. And then obviously adding, different variables, making it more difficult to kind of mix things up and add variety. But yeah, definitely the more you can get up and move around, the quicker everything else will start to come to.
Was there anything unique or difficult about Bryce's recovery?
I mean, what was remarkable was how well he did, I feel like, in the trajectory from the time that he started to walk to how well he did. He was, really, I mean, we weren't even holding on to the gate belt at the end. We were just making sure that he didn't scuff a toe or something like that. So kind of just keeping him company, the last week or so, doing loops around and working on some higher level balance, which obviously is, more challenging. But I would say that was nothing was, wouldn't be remarkably challenging. It was just more remarkably impressive on how quickly his, walking came around and how well he did.
Were you at all surprised, Bryce, with how fast, your recovery was?
Oh yeah, I was very surprised. But like I said, I knew I was going to walk out of here when I left. I was here for like 2 months exactly.
It was 2 months exactly. I just looked.
Yeah. And I was like, let's go.
Right. Well, and you didn't really, you didn't have anything to compare it to either, right? So you're just like, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember that even from one of the, the first few days, you're like, I am going to walk.
Yeah.
And, we're always like the perspective, we don't have a crystal ball. We will do our very best to help you in any way we can. But in the meantime, we're using a lift and, a power chair. And so we do our best with that. And then we keep progressing as you can.
Is everybody as positive and hopeful as Bryce is?
No, for sure not. No. And I think that's a huge, obviously there's many different medical factors that play into the big picture, but I think a huge part of the big picture is good family support like Bryce obviously had with his parents. And and the friends, your parents were here, grandma came, cute little grandma, and you had friends that were here all the time. So the family support, and then obviously just his positive attitude. And even if he didn't maybe feel so positive, like you said, you were maybe a little depressed when you first came, you were always, I think you tried to look at it in a positive light. You were cooperative. You were willing to do whatever we asked. You never said, no, I'm in too much pain, or I'm not in the mood, or whatever. You were just willing to go for it and, give me more, you know?
Right.
So I think from experience is a huge, huge indicator of recovery.
So music was a big part of your life before the accident. How was that? Was that at all incorporated in your therapy or your time here at the hospital?
Yep. I worked with the music therapist here. Peter.
Yep.
And he taught me, I did some stuff with my fingers and played the piano. He taught me how to play the piano. And I used it. He helped me with my singing as well. Breath support, because I was having trouble breathing, or keeping a good breath support. And so we worked on that. And he got different songs around for me to practice walking at different speeds. So
I think he came to a few of the physical therapy sessions, didn't he?
Yeah. And he would play guitar while I was
play
walking
guitar
and
while
stuff.
we were walking
Yeah.
and trying to speed it up and slow it down. And again,
he did all
adding
that.
more challenge, but also, a sense of motivation.
Yeah,
also
right. Absolutely.
keep
Made it
things
fun.
interesting.
Yeah.
I remember I actually met you too before this. I think it was close to Christmas time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a little video of you when they were using the Boomwhackers.
The Boomwhackers.
Yeah. Laura, can you tell us, what are Boomwhackers?
So there are these hollow tubes, and I guess you could probably speak to it better, Bryce, because you're musical. They all are technically like a different note, right?
Yeah.
And so they're color coded, and so like orange would be like middle C or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody, I don't know, we probably had 10 or 12
Yeah.
therapists, and everybody had a different color boomwhacker, and we had to practice beforehand. And so then we played Jingle Bells, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't that the song we played? And
Walking Down the
so
Hall.
Peter ran us through a rehearsal ahead of time,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody had to figure out when to play their boomwhackers, and he would kind of direct us. And then, was it at lunchtime, I think?
Yeah.
So at lunchtime, Bryce had this great idea. Was it your idea?
No.
No? Was it Peter's idea?
Yeah, I think so.
So anyway, we corralled Bryce because we're like, you can sing and nobody else can sing. So we're going to go Christmas caroling down the halls. And so it was like pretty much Bryce singing and the therapist trying to play a little backup singing, and then playing the boomwhackers essentially as we did the Christmas caroling around the
fun.
halls. And I think we did a few loops.
Yeah.
And you were still learning to walk at this time. I think you were using the walker where you rested your elbows on it.
Yeah.
So it was actually like therapy. You were doing work.
Right.
Right, yeah.
So-
He was still a few weeks from leaving, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
this was earlier, maybe, I don't know, third week of December, and he
Yep.
didn't leave until January.
Yep.
So, it was therapy and helping other patients, because I think people were kind
Everybody
of sitting by the
loved
doors.
it. Everybody,
they did.
smiled. So their smiles were so big.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. Another story I'd like you to share is related to Christmas. I think this is just an example of how the community supported you. The Cricket Farm got you a gift for Christmas. Why don't you tell me about that?
Yeah, so every year they do like Secret Santa. They only spend like $10 or $20 on it or whatever. And the year of my accident, they all pulled their money together and bought me recording equipment, stuff that I still use to this day. They bought me a microphone and mixing board and
They did?
the software. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
That's
they
awesome.
so I went down. I got a day pass again and went down to Kalamazoo for the Christmas party, and they presented to me there. So it was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, something you're able to use at the hospital, but use
Yeah,
afterwards. So
yeah.
did that help motivate you at all?
Oh
that
yeah,
gift?
absolutely. I tried to taking it out here, working with it, but waited till I got home to really start diving into it.
This is Rehabilitationships, a new podcast about the intersection of rehabilitation and relationships. If you're enjoying this story and you want to hear more like it, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now back to Bryce and Laura as we wrap up the story. So when did you start being told that you were going to head home? I mean, you got used to life at the hospital, but the goal is to head home.
I feel like it was relatively close to my date. I don't remember. I remember you, Laura, going in and advocating for me to get a date to leave. Yeah.
Yes, because you were
I
a
was
little
like-
bit itching to get out of here. Yeah.
I was
let's
like,
put it honestly.
"Damn, let me
That's
go
right.
home."
I remember that now that
Yeah.
you say that.
Yeah.
And then 1/9 is
Yeah,
what
I
it
was like,
ended up to be.
finally. Oh,
Yes.
that was an awesome day.
Yeah, because I think towards the end you were just like, I just need a specific day on
Yeah.
my calendar.
Oh, yeah, they could. Yeah,
and
it was
if
so
it's a
vague.
week or if it's 2 weeks, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I just need a date
Right.
to be able to
Right.
aim for. Where did you end up doing your follow-up therapy then? Did people come to the house or did you go to outpatient?
I went to outpatient at Hope Network.
And then how often were you going, and what kind of things were they working on with you?
I was going like 3 times a week. Basically, I did yoga there.
Ooh.
Yeah, yoga was hard. And what else? I did stair climbing and balance, worked on a lot of balance.
A lot of balance stuff.
Yeah, a lot of balance stuff. And then I did occupational therapy. They they were helping me get trained to like start easing my way back into work. And so that we would do like little simulations of trying to pack crickets into boxes with whatever we could find or use or whatever. So
how long did you do the outpatient therapy then?
6 months.
Okay.
What was it like getting back to work when you finally got to that point? Was it hard? Were you happy?
I was happy, but it's hard. It still is hard. Like I can't work a full day at all. Nor can I really be on my feet for the half day that I'm there. So like they accommodated me really well. They make it so I can sit down and do certain things. Like we have to staple screens into the boxes. So I'll do that for a while or whatever. They're really flexible with me on days, some days I wake up and I can't really walk like that. So I might need a day. Like the past couple of days, it's been pretty challenging. And sometimes it depends on the weather or it just depends on anything really.
Where would you say you're at functionally now? I mean, on a scale of 1 to 100%.
I would say 90. There's still some things that I need to work on as far as my left hand is concerned.
So having gone through this, so what would you say to somebody who's like a fresh injury? So just newly injured, something similar to yours. They're lying in that hospital bed on their first day at Mary Free Bed. What kind of advice or tips, hints, what would you tell them?
Don't give up. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. I saw, I was with some people here who just kind of like mentally checked out and they just didn't want nor have a desire to do anything after this, which is understandable. Right. It was a hard thing to go through. Yeah. But a little bit of drive and not giving up will go a long way.
Sure.
Laura, what's it been like for you? This is your first time seeing him in several months. What did you feel and think when you first saw him walk in?
It's Bryce. I mean, he's still got the same smile. And yeah, I was excited to see him. He looks like he's doing really well. I was excited to see that you were back to work.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're able to still get back to that.
Yeah.
You're walking 100% unassisted. We went up and down stairs, coming to where we're recording.
Yeah. 100% unassisted.
Yeah, and when you left, I think you were still...
Yeah, I had a walker. Little purple walker.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't think you use that much though.
Oh no, it's
by the time, yeah,
I don't use it.
Yeah.
Where's the walker now?
It's in my parents' basement.
Right.
You didn't send it off to sea or throw it in the river?
No. Just keep it for emergencies.
Right. Yeah, as a memory of what was. Right. And how far you've come.
Right.
Laura, what's it feel like to connect again with a patient who's had such a great success story like Bryce?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the best parts about my job, to be honest, to be able to, see patients. And we're just a very small part of the equation, right? We're just there to kind of, steer them in the right direction, give them some things to work on and, hopefully, be with them and, stay by them through the process. But to be able to see somebody come back who's returning to a lot of the things that they, love to do, that's our goal. It's to not get you back to the goals that we have, is to get you back to the goals that you have and the things that you enjoy doing, whether it's singing, working at the Cricket farm, spending time with family, working, all those kinds of great things. I mean, that's what is the most gratifying for sure. I love it when patients come back and say hi. Just to kind of ask you one more question, Bryce, did you learn anything about yourself through this process?
Oh, yeah. I exceeded my own expectations. I didn't know that. I guess I didn't feel like I had that much drive before, or like I just didn't know I was capable of doing this. I guess you don't know what you're capable of until it comes about. But yeah, I had no idea that I was going to be like this, if that makes sense.
Is there anybody you'd like to thank, throughout this whole process, this whole, year plus?
Okay. I definitely have to start with my parents. My mom and my dad, they took such great care of me. Oh my gosh. And they're still taking care of me. My brother, all my family really has just been there 100%. The doctors, Dr. Ho, my therapist, Laura, Tracy,
Rachel says
Rachel.
hi.
Oh,
Yeah.
Rachel.
Yes.
Oh, I miss her. Yeah. There's just so many people who are instrumental in this process. My surgeon, just everybody. Everybody's been, my rock that I needed, for sure.
Bryce, Laura, thank you guys so much for doing this interview with us. And I want to thank you guys for coming out today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for having us.
What a great conversation. Since we've recorded this episode, Bryce has stepped back from working at the Cricket Farm. He's now working more on his music, focusing on his continued therapy, and looking for new opportunities. If you want to see the video we mentioned in the conversation when Bryce was using the Boomwhackers in therapy, visit maryfreebed.com/podcast. We've got that and a lot of other bonus materials from Bryce's story, so be sure to check it out. Thanks again for listening to this episode of Rehabilitationships, a podcast from Mary Free Bed. Every month, we'll share amazing stories just like this, highlighting the intersection of rehabilitation and relationships. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love to hear your feedback as we launch this new podcast. Email us at podcast@maryfreebed.com. If you, a family member or friend, could benefit from services like what Bryce received, you can learn more at maryfreebed.com. Once again, I'm Chris Mills. I'm your host. And until next time, thanks for listening and stay well.